Positivity is the way to go. When the sky is gray and the wind will blow, there's neon Dion shining a light. Neon Dion speaking it right. Positivity is the way to go. Falling right on back to a blues cliche. Cannot let the blues get in the way. 'Cause neon Dion's shining a light. Neon Dion speaking it right. Positivity is the way to go. Got a little podcast in the corner of the web, making something last if I get inside your head. Making this the positive, we can keep it positive. Where positivity is the way to go. When the sky is gray and the wind will blow, here's neon Dion shining a light. Neon Dion speaking it right. Positivity is the way to go.
So, welcome to Positivity is the way to go. He is a three-sport athlete in college, and he has written 3 books and also several articles about sports from a unique point of view. Welcome, my guest today, Jeff Rasley. How you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm great, Dion. Although I'm a little sore, I overdid it. I swam and played pickleball today, so my eyes look red from the chlorine, and my my legs are sore from the pickleball. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. I'm struggling like the fan, work in my field, so that's been kind of tough for me.
Well, I hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, well, I thought I was gonna say that you got sick because of IU. You probably was drinking a lot, Jeff, and you've been drinking the IU Kool-Aid, man. That's probably why I thought you was saying you were sore, man, after that Penn State game.
Oh, that almost gave me a heart attack. But
They should have
yeah,
lost that game, man. But the thing is, he caught that ball in the end zone, man.
yeah. I'm voting for Omar Cooper for the next Indiana governor if Signetti doesn't run.
Yeah, and he gonna say Google me.
Yeah. Wow, that was a game.
Yeah, so tell us about the book, The Monsters of the Midway, and how it impacted the article and the significance of the story.
Well, so I played on the University of Chicago football team in 75, or I'm sorry, 77, 78. And the University of Chicago was the powerhouse in the Big Ten in the early era of the Big Ten under Coach Amos Alonzo Stagg. And but Chicago dropped football and dropped out of the Big Ten in 1939. And so for uh, 30 years, it didn't have football. And in 1969, it started up a varsity program, but it really struggled, winning very few games. My first year of playing, and I got the years wrong before, sorry. My first year of playing was 1974. We didn't win a single game that season. And People magazine wrote an article, and the title of the article was "The Worst Team in College Ball." It didn't even limit it to the worst team in football. But in 75, we actually won our very last game, which was the last game that our coach, Coach Wally Hass, coached, and he had worked for decades trying to bring football back to the University of Chicago, and had succeeded. And so it was great that he got to go out on a victory, and it was my last game because then I graduated. But it was such a really interesting experience, playing on that team, even though it was such a struggle to, try to win a game. The guys on the team were all, really brilliant guys. Some had never even played football before, but just kind of got drafted out of their phys ed class by Coach Hass. And so the title of the book is Monsters of the Midway, 1969, Sex, Drugs, Rock and Roll, Vietnam, Civil Rights, and Football, because all of that was going on in the 70s, the Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War, um, sex, drugs, rock and roll, and all of that was was happening while we were playing football. And so that's what the book is about. It's based on my experience, but it's actually a novel, because it goes back to 69. And it also includes kind of the history of the Big Ten and actually the history of college football. So, for people who like sports history, it's got a lot of that. For people who like just a good story, it's got an interesting story about a kid from a small town in Indiana who goes to Chicago and ends up almost by accident on the football team. And it's got a romance because he has a girlfriend who's a very challenging personality, because she's a feminist and thinks jocks are big, sweaty, gross monsters. And so he has to bring her around to look at athletes a little bit differently. So anyway, all that's in the book.
Yeah, when I heard Monster Midway, I thought about Walter, the Fridge Refrigerator, and the Bears and Mike Dicker and the 1985. That's what I thought about when I heard of it. I'm like,
Well,
Monster
see,
Midway, good title.
the Chicago Bears stole from the University of Chicago the nickname Monsters of the Midway. The Bears have nothing to do. The Midway runs down. It's called the Midway Plaisance, and it runs through the middle of the University of Chicago campus. And so when Amos Alonzo Stagg was the coach, and they won 7 Big Ten titles, 3 undefeated seasons, national champions. They were called the Monsters of the Midway. And then the other thing the Bears stole is the C. That C that the Chicago Bears used was the original Chicago C. And George Halas, so admired Amos Alonzo Stagg and University of Chicago football back when it was dominating the Big Ten. He just stole he stole the C and stole the nickname.
Yeah, so we got a scandal going on, man. We got to investigate this more further, Jeff. We got to get to the bottom of this.
I grew up a Bears fan, so I forgave him. I mean, Walter Payton. I have a picture of Walter Payton in my house. He was my sports idol. Fridge, that great team. Love that team. So all is forgiven. The Bears can use the C, and they can be called Monsters of the Midway if they really want to.
So the investigation is concluded already, man. 1 minute in. Wow. So tell us about John Ritter. I read the article about, when he was at IU, he played basketball for Bob Knight, and he's one of your sports heroes, and he became homeless, and then he redeemed himself, and his story is very like interesting.
Yeah, that's another book I wrote, which is called Hero's Journey, and it's about the story of John Ritter, who was probably the greatest athlete to ever come out of my hometown, Goshen, Indiana. John was he was just the best in everything. He he was the best football player, best basketball player, best baseball player. He was 6'5", blonde, blue-eyed, uh, had the highest SAT score in his graduating class. And he went to IU on a basketball scholarship and was there when Bob Knight came. Knight came John's junior year, and John was the co-captain of the team for Bob Knight's first NCAA semifinal team, made it to the Final Four. And, John was expected to get drafted, go into the NBA. He had a great college career. And the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Indiana Pacers both drafted him, but he tried out for the Pacers and he didn't make the team. And so then he kind of bounced around for a while. He did some coaching at Mississippi State, was a player coach for a semi-pro team in Anderson, Indiana, but then was hired by Eli Lilly Company, which is the biggest company in Indianapolis, probably in Indiana. And he was on a great fast track to become a vice president, was doing really well as an executive with Lilly. And then he just disappeared. And, there were rumors about what happened to him, but a friend of mine one day got a cab out at the Indianapolis airport, and this guy had actually played basketball against John. My friend had gone to South Bend Adams High School, and he sees, the name of the cab driver is John Ritter, but he looks at the guy, and this guy is kind of big, fat, bald guy. But then he just says, well, I'll give it a shot. He said, you any relation to the IU basketball player, John Ritter? And it's him. And so they drive in the cab, and my friend's name is Paul. Paul starts asking him about what's happened to him. And he says, well, I developed a drinking problem and I'm living out of my cab. So Paul told me about that, and I wanted to track John down and see what was going on with him, and I thought it would be a really interesting story, but John didn't want to talk, and so I let it go for several years, and then I heard that John had actually pulled himself together, had gotten a good job. He was the office manager of a ticket broker uh, company called Circle City Tickets, which is actually not far from where I live, their office. So I called John again and interviewed him over the phone, but he told me he didn't want me to write a story about him. And so again, I kind of put it on the back burner, but after a while, I decided this is just too interesting. I'm going to do it anyway. So I got in touch with John's high school baseball coach. His basketball coach had died by then. I wrote to Bobby Knight, who wrote back to me. I interviewed players who had been on John's high school and college teams. And so I ended up, writing what is, in a sense, a biography of John, although he didn't give permission, so it's an unauthorized biography. But it tells John's story of the rise and fall of this golden boy from the small town in Indiana. But also it's redemptive because in the end he does pull himself up out of the pit he'd fallen in. But it also it's kind of expands and talks about a lot of other athletes who went through the same thing. They're on the top of the world as young men or young women, and then it's over. And what do you do when your whole life has been devoted to playing the sport and you've achieved excellence in it? And now at a pretty young age, it's over. And, that was your identity. And a lot of athletes sink into depression, drug, alcohol abuse, similar to some gambling, um, all of those things. And John went through all of that. So I think it's his life story is a really interesting metaphor and example for what it's like to have reached that pinnacle and then it's over, and how do you cope with that? So that's why I call it the hero's journey, because he's still a hero to me.
Well said, man. Way to put it into perspective, man. It sounds like he overcame a lot, but he where he want to be at right now, man. So, what do you? How was Bob Knight? I know John Ritter was on the team with IU. How was Bob Knight as a person? Can you like break down like all your interactions with Bob Knight?
Well, Chris, I've followed his career, and I wrote him twice, and he very graciously responded to me. I really only met him one time and talked to him only one time, but the first time I wrote him, I was writing an article for a local magazine called Indy's Child, and it was about coaching youth sports. And my son, who at the time was about, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years old, we went to a father-son sports banquet at the Presbyterian Church, and Bob Knight was the keynote speaker. And they had a drawing for an IU gym bag, duffel bag, and we won. So my son and I got to go up and shake hands and chat with Coach Knight, and he, gave JJ, that's what we call my son, the gym bag, and Knight was really gracious and said things like to little JJ, and I'll see you in 15 years down at IU, and so anyway, I thought, maybe he'll remember me, maybe he won't. But so I wrote him about this article I was writing about coaching youth sports and asked him if he would give me a quote. And that the speech he had given, I thought, had a lot of material that I could use, and he did. He wrote back and said, yes, you can quote me, and, here parts of the speech that I gave. And so I quoted him in the article. And then the next interaction I had with him is when I was writing the book about John Ritter. I wrote him and said, told him I was writing this book, and I asked him if he'd had any contact with John, and he wrote back and said that at that point he had not had any contact with John, but John knew that his door was always open to him. And he had let John know that anytime he wanted to, if he needed help, his door was open. And then John was one of the group of many Hoosiers that when Bob Knight came back a few years ago for the first time to IU, and they had a celebration at halftime, and a bunch of his players were there. John was one of them. But Bob Nye is a complicated character. I mean, my interaction with him, he was a really gracious, wonderful guy. But the reality is he had a real anger management problem. He lost his temper and really mistreated some of his players. I mean, I knew some guys that played for him other than John, that I played on recreational adult leagues with. And he did some pretty nasty things. So he's really, in my mind, it's like there's two Bob Knights. There's the, wonderful, gracious guy and the terrific coach, and then there's this mean son of a bitch who who was out of control a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's why IU did not. That's why IU did not bring him back for years and decades and stuff. Up until now. Because that was a heartfelt. Like they even had that on the Big Ten Network when to show Bob Knight when he came back to the Who's what the Hoosiers play at.
Yeah. I mean, it was in a way, it was really great that he was able to reunite with a lot of his players, and that IU, welcomed him back. But yeah, I mean, he got fired, and he deserved to be fired, as far as I'm concerned. And for IU tried to bring him back earlier than when he finally did come back, but he didn't want to. He was very pissed off at IU that he got fired, um, and he really never took responsibility for his own behavior and the things that he did wrong. Some of the way he mistreated some players and one in a particular student and his own assistant coach and the athletic director, who is actually a friend of mine, um, and the president of IU. I mean, he thought that he was untouchable, and he found out he wasn't.
Well, yeah, he wouldn't be able to make it in the modern NIL days today. He would not be at a Colts. He'd be really upset because the players are getting more money than him. And he had to coach them and stuff. He'd really be going crazy today in this landscape of college basketball.
Yeah, it's a lot different. I don't think he could cope with it the way it is now. Although he was the highest paid uh, employee in the state of Indiana for a long time.
Well, why do you think pickleball is rising, and what are the differences from tennis to pickleball? Because I know you talk about pickleball in one of your articles, that I read. And you were
Yeah,
talking
I
about how
wrote a
you don't
book.
want to write how to play it, you want to make it interesting.
Yeah, I wrote a book, a pickleball soap opera, Love, Murder, and Pickleball, and it's a it's a murder mystery, conspiracy, romance story, but it's the main characters are this group of pickleball players. And so through the course of the book, I describe how to learn how to play pickleball, because the main character, he starts out, he's never played, so he has to learn. So it goes through, kind of teaching the reader how to play pickleball and improve your skills. Um, and it has, some exciting pickleball games in it, but it's also this murder mystery, which involves the CIA and the Taliban in Afghanistan, and terrorists, and all, and a romance. So, it's not just about pickleball.
Well, yeah, well said. I be watching pickleball on TV and stuff. They got a pickleball court in Chicago. Everybody be there when the weather gets nice and stuff. Do you do you do you play pickleball often, Jeff, or you just play it for sometimes?
Yeah, I usually play 3 times a week. I'm really into it.
Are you
I've
good
actually
though?
oh, I am tremendous, Dion. I mean,
You
come
got you
on.
got to you got to show me some highlights, man. One day you got to email me or and I got to see you playing pickleball, Jeff.
Well, I decided, and I promised my wife I would not play in any real tournaments. I have played in only one tournament, which was sponsored by the YMCA, and my partner and I did win that tournament. But I played competitive sports for so long, played amateur tennis at a high level. I was on a team that made it to the nationals. We lost in the championship, and I played on volleyball teams and basketball teams and softball teams and flag football teams and all of that after college football and college rugby and college swimming. And so I'm at an age where, I'm an old fart now, and I can't do any of those the sports at least at a level that I could accept, but I can pickleball. So pickleball is my last sport. I'm going to go to my grave playing pickleball. I dig it. It's kind of an addiction. Um, but I'm not going to take it so seriously that I play in tournaments.
Well, that was a nice segue because you talk about your playing career. You remember University of Chicago, you was an honorary captain, and you also was an all Illinois academic letter in football and swimming. So what did it mean to you when you played at University of Chicago and being a captain and coming back and stuff, not your playing days there? And what do you think about the football program now?
Well, they're a lot better than we were. Um, they they were until last week undefeated in their conference, but they lost to Monmouth, which has a really good team this last week. Um, and it's the program in terms of competitiveness has come such a long way. I mean, there were times when we couldn't do a scrimmage because we didn't have 22 guys that showed up at practice. And now, they've got over 100 guys that on the team. So it's really, they're having a very different experience than what we did. Um, we, our, our workout equipment was so old, and in such terrible shape. For barbells, we had a steel pole that had coffee cans filled with cement and stuck on the end of the steel pole. I mean, that's how bad it was. Our uniforms were patched. Um, but the thing is that was really kind of wonderful about it was, the guys that were playing were doing it just for fun. There was no reward to it. I mean, there weren't a lot of people that came out to watch our games. It was mostly parents and girlfriends. Sometimes the visiting team would have more fans there than we did. Um, and there was a rule, an academic rule in Chicago that an athlete could not be disciplined for missing a practice or a game for any academic reason. So, for example, I went to practice only 3 times a week because I had a class that conflicted on Tuesdays and Thursdays with practice. So I didn't go to practice on Tuesday and Thursday, and it was understood. The coaches accepted it, and a lot of guys, it was the same thing. Uh, they didn't come to practice 5 days a week, and it could be fun, but it's not a prescription for winning. So, that's what's changed. I think we probably had more fun than the players do now, but they're winning a lot more games.
Well, yeah, y'all just want to have fun and y'all didn't care about losing. Now they want to win today. Y'all y'all wanted a participation trophy back then, right? Right, Jeff?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we wanted to win. I mean, it wasn't like we were trying to lose. We
You just didn't
definitely
have the
wanted to
talent at
win.
all. You didn't have the
But
talent, like the recruitings and everything, to bring into the school, like today with the NIL era.
exactly. I mean, now schools are paying players to
Millions of
come.
dollars.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's so different.
Yeah, so let's get into Indiana sports, man. I know what is wrong with the Pacers right now, man? I know Halliburton now. I know Miles Turner with the Bucks, but what is going on? They only got one or two wins this year. They're struggling, you know. You think they're gonna be in that play-in, or you think they're not gonna even make playoffs at all with the Halliburton injury? And that was so sad when he got injured in Game 7 with the Thunder. You know, if he wouldn't have got injured, I think y'all could have won the championship last year.
I do too. It was heartbreaking. Yeah, that was a tough one. And the Pacers were a great ABA team. We've got a bunch of banners hanging of ABA championships, but they haven't won the NBA since they've been in it. So that was our chance. And yeah, I would be really surprised if they made the playoffs this year. But I think they'll get better. I mean, they've had a bunch of injuries, other than Halliburton. TJ McConnell's been out. He hasn't played a game yet. Nemhart was out. Uh, but I'll tell you, I find the trade letting Miles Turner go really disappointing. I mean, he'd spent his whole career here. Uh, he's a great rim protector. And now they've got Isaiah Jackson playing center. And I mean, he was basically a third stringer. And now he's the starting center. And I mean, I'm sorry, he's just not that good. So they're gonna be hurting.
Well, they treated this like a gap year though anyway, Jeff. Like, you know, they just trying to get the next year, get Halliburton healthy, and then they'll spend money and stuff, you know. I think they probably let Turner go because they probably knew that it wasn't going to be that year this year, and they don't want to pay him the money at all. But he was the heart and soul of the team last year. They wouldn't dare know without him, you know, in the playoffs, even though he got injured.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think teams ought to feel some loyalty to players that have spent, as Turner said when he got booed here when the Bucks came back and they played here last week, I think it was, and the fans booed him. And he was really, hurt and upset by that. And in an interview afterwards, he said, I gave my blood, sweat, and tears to that franchise for 10 years, and now they boo me. But I just, there's no loyalty in professional sports. It's all business. And okay, I understand that. Uh, I don't like it, and I think a lot of fans don't like it. We like to see the players come back. We like to see a team that we know the players and that we don't have to learn all the new names every year. But look at IU basketball this year. They didn't return. It's an entirely new team. Not one single player from last year came back. Now, Kurt Signetti with IU football, he's got this model. You basically, when you come in as a new coach, you bring in all new players, or at least mostly new players, and it's certainly worked well for Signetti and IU football, and it looks like it's working well for DeVries and IU basketball. Uh, and the fans want victories. I get it, but uh, I just when there's no loyalty, there's no continuity in teams. I think the game loses something, even when you're winning games.
Well said. But do you think IU, because he brought his players from James Madison, like Aiden Fisher, you know, Kamara, they playing really good on the defensive side. Do you think Indiana can win the national championship? Because the only competition they got right now is Ohio State. They the second favorites behind Ohio State to win the national championship. What do you think IU will do this year with the 10-0 start for the second straight year?
I don't see IU beating Ohio State. I mean, I would be delighted. I'd probably, hit my head on the ceiling, jumping for joy if it happened. But no, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Ohio State's going to roll all the way to the national championship again. I hope I'm wrong. But if IU just does better than it did last year, if it can make it into the semi or into the championship, that'd be fantastic. You know, watching IU football for my whole life, this is amazing. I mean, I don't think any IU fans expected that we would ever have a team that was ranked number two. Uh, I don't think we ever thought we'd have a team that would go as far as the team did last year. So, and now we might go farther this year. It's great. It's exciting.
Yeah, and Fernando Mendoza may be the number one pick in the NFL draft. So you gonna have a first round quarterback in the top five next year. So that's another thing that can help y'all with recruiting and stuff when y'all try to recruit big time players, you know.
Yeah, you're right. And what Signetti, um, his strategy has been not to recruit the greatest freshman players out there. His strategy has been to use the transfer portal and to, get guys that maybe are not that well known and bring them in and really get them to buy into his approach to the game. And it's worked really well. Now, I don't know that anybody realized Mendoza was going to be as good as he is. I mean, he's terrific. Um, but he was not like the number one quarterback out there last year. So once again, I think, Signetti has a way of bringing the best out of players, getting more than you expected. And that's what, we used to say about Bob Knight. Bob Knight seemed to get more out of his players than what people expected. So, um, it's cool. And it's great for IU fans. I still don't see them being able to beat Ohio State.
Well, that was a nice segue to the last team, the Indianapolis Colts. How you think they doing this year with Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen, man? You think, what do you think about them with the AFC? You know, with the Patriots and the rest of the other teams.
Well, I want to see Taylor win the MVP, but Jones is it's a really interesting story. I mean, nobody expected him to perform as well as he has. But these last two games, he's really struggled. Multiple fumbles, multiple interceptions. Uh, just kind of like the IU win over Penn State. The Colts last win came down, I mean, into overtime. It's that game could have gone either way. So the Colts were pretty lucky to come out of that with a victory. But uh, again, the Colts are playing better than any of us expected. So hooray for Steichen and hooray for Daniel Jones. I mean, they seem to be in sync. And that's what they say, that they spend a lot of time together and it's almost like they can read each other's minds. So I hope that continues. But those last two games are kind of worrisome with all those turnovers.
Well, I think they need to run the ball more, and that's have him as a game manager. In the NFL, they don't want you to be a game manager because it's like you're not winning the game on your own. But I just think that they need to roll Jonathan Taylor, keep running the ball, and just give Daniel Jones the easy passes, and protect them, because he gonna be in the playoff, and they trying to win playoff games.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're right. I mean, Jonathan Taylor won that game for them. I mean, he
Well,
literally won the game.
y'all have
But
3 wins without Jonathan Taylor. He is the MVP of the league. Without him, y'all have 3 wins. Y'all would have lost. Y'all would have lost 5 games, or y'all would have lost a lot of games.
yeah,
Y'all would be
I
three and
agree.
seven. He won
Yeah,
y'all
I
5
agree.
games. And then
I
again,
know.
Atlanta defense said they gave up on that last play too. It was the defensive back. He came out after the game and said, "Man, we didn't want to tackle him no more because he rushed the ball with 32 rushes, 244 yards, and 2 touchdowns. You know."
Oh yeah. I mean, he's great. It was a stellar game, and he's tough, he's fast, he's got great moves. I mean, he's got it all. And yeah, I mean, in the overtime, Atlanta defense they just looked like they kind of gave up.
Well, yeah. So I think he gonna win the MVP, and I think the Colts gonna win the division. So all y'all got to worry about is what seeds y'all gonna get. You know, as a for the rest of the season.
Well, we got to worry about Taylor staying healthy. I mean, he's taken a lot of hits.
Well, that's why y'all gotta, you gotta minimize the touches like in games where y'all gonna win. Y'all win to get them out the game. You know,
Hmm.
win big
Yeah,
and get them out the game. You know, that way it'll save his legs to the playoffs. Because that's all. That's what y'all talking about, the playoffs now.
that's right. That's right. Well, and I hope Jones gets his mojo back after these last two games because I mean, he looked great the first 5 games or so. He really did.
Yeah, well, he gotta get confidence back by not turning the ball over and them giving them easy reads and easy passes in the offense. That'll give him confidence back, like any quarterback, you know. He, but it was a pleasure having you on again, Jeff, man, and thank you, man. And go IU Hoosiers.
Right on. Go Hoosiers.